This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it takes care of standard threats like worms, trojans, spyware exploits, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price right now, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. Google search, obviously, they own the industry. 92, I think, percent of all internet searches are done through Google. But if you've used it in the last year or so, you might have noticed that the search results have gotten a little weird, particularly on certain types of content. Entertainment, for example, has been a little spotty. Your top results are always kind of useless, and Google has recognized that. They've heard the complaints. There are Twitter threads complaining about certain topics on Google just becoming completely valueless. And so the company has promised to make a change. They've got some big changes coming to the algorithm and the way that they deal with search results. And they are specifically aimed at these clickbait style, which in the proper term, the proper definition of the term, not the way that we tend to use it, meaning a headline that's a little misleading. This is proper clickbait. This is articles that are maybe not written by the site that you're going to, or they're aggregations of small amounts of nothing that add up to large amounts of nothing. Google is specifically trying to target those, which I'll tell you, I think is a good thing. I don't use Google for search much, but when I do seem to find myself in this position. And I find myself in this position across the search engines, because it's usually when I go over to Google is because, Bing or DuckDuckGo or Brave have completely failed me on search results. And Google tends to fail me in that same way on those search results because everybody's using the same general metadata to build their indexes. And so Google's saying, all right, we're going to start looking at that metadata a little differently and try and make these search results better, specifically to focus on made by people for people and to minimize the bot algorithmic concatenation nonsense that I tend to find, especially with entertainment. Have you experienced this, Avram? Do you find yourself in this position?
Oh, sure. Listen, I actually can talk to this. Actually, this is a very fruitful, this is a topic I actually know quite a bit about but I know about it actually from the content producer end, because we talk about this a lot at work, at my day job, right? Because we talk about this a lot because if you, we don't want to get caught in, we don't want to get dinged for this, right? So,
right,
for clickbait, and our company is very concerned about any of the sites that, our parent company Future is very concerned about any of our sites being dinged for clickbait. And they are very on all of us, whether it's Tom's Hardware or some of our sister sites, very on us about be really careful about what you put in your headlines. Don't promise something in the headline that you don't deliver accurately in the story, right?
Sure.
They are very, very concerned about it because they don't want you as a publisher can get in trouble with Google. They will send you warnings, and if you get warned and you don't stop or whatever, if they, it's like a content warning. If they think that you are doing clickbait, you could be kicked out of Google or punished or whatever. And being kicked out of Google
Certainly a
is
drop
like,
site rank.
or your site rank drop. That's like being Socrates and being asked to leave the Greek state of Athens or something. You're going to be, you might as well drink the I don't know, the hemlock or something, because your
Right.
site is done if you
Yeah.
can't be found in Google. So
Because again,
so
92%.
anyway, right. So you need, you need to be in Google. Like um, we cannot afford to not be findable in
Right.
Google. So it it is very serious. Now, what you said interesting about for people by people is another thing that Google has been talking about. Now, it's interesting that they say they're rolling out algorithm now, because they've been rolling out algorithms to deal with this for a while. So if they
Yeah.
say they're doing it now, this means that they're continuing to do something that they have been doing actually.
Well,
So
they are in this particular case. It's the type of content that they're focusing on this time. Like last year, I think it was last October, they rolled out a big update, a big for people by people update to the algorithm around product reviews and entertainment reviews, because there were sites that were taking little and making little, bot generated algorithmic concatenations of review, and it had nice words and it didn't have anything useful. And so they went on a big thing about trying to solve that just shy of a year ago now, and they're going to enhance that as part of this update and start applying some of that technology to other topics, including entertainment. So this and the reviews wasn't the first one either. It was the biggest one though. It was their biggest hit in a couple of years, and this one sounds like it's going to be bigger.
so Google is really big on something now that they call EAT, EAT, expertise, authority, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So um, not all so they want to, not only does it matter that these you are the original source of content, which as it should matter, right?
Right.
But they but authority matters.
Right.
So like it's really important, for example, to have a byline of a human on articles, and
Right.
you will have a reputation. So if you have a reputation for writing about, technology, and your byline is on it, I mean, I don't know how, nobody outside of Google really knows how well this works and how
Right.
granular it works. Like if my name is on it and I'm known for writing about Raspberry Pi, but I'm not known for writing about Mac OS or something, but I write an article about Mac OS, does Google go, look, that's okay because he knows about technology and that's how we're
Right.
sorting it? Or no, actually, we know we're really granular and we know that this guy never writes about Mac OS, so he doesn't have a lot of authority.
Right.
I like, we don't, I don't know if anybody really knows that. But the point is, Google has made a point of saying, like, we want real people. We want to be able to trust these people. Like, it helps you to have a bio online and all that stuff. Like, it matters. So now, like, whether if that doesn't matter to if we don't know when Google says that these things matter, how good their technology is, like how
Right.
smart it is. Is it
True.
as smart as a person to say like, oh yeah, I trust that person because they're used to writing about this, or this really looks like clickbait to me. It's hard to say like how good it's going to be at picking out clickbait. But what we can say is like, as a publisher, you engage in clickbait at your own risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess the thing is like, don't promise something that you can't deliver,
True.
right? Like, don't say like, hey, this thing is coming out on this day, or no, or something like, we now know the release date of the new iPhone, the next iPhone. and then you click through and it's like, we think the release date might be in September,
Right.
but we don't really know. Like that, like that's clickbait. It's like, hey, I promised you something in the
Right.
headline, something definitive in the headline, but then when you got to the body, it was actually like, actually, I can't really tell you this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, Similarly, you have a lot of now. What I don't know is whether this kind of jives with images, where you have my favorite bad kind of clickbait is the one where you get a picture of something, but it's not actually delivered in the story.
Uh
So
huh.
you're like, you won't believe who died or whatever. And
Right.
it'll have a picture of someone who you think is alive. And you're like, oh man, I better click through to find out whether
Right.
this person's really dead.
It's a
And then you
picture
click
of
through and they're not even on the list.
it's a picture of Chris Pratt. You won't believe who died this year, and it's a picture of Chris Pratt, and you're like, well, I know for a fact he didn't. So what are we talking about here?
Unless, you know, and you're like, hey, wait a second, did he just die yesterday today?
That's what they're
Let
hoping.
me click
That's what
through.
they're hoping
You
for.
know, right? Right? Or, you know, remember her? What she looks like now is jaw dropping.
Right.
Um,
Number
anyway,
13 will
now,
amaze you.
yes. Now, but I gotta caution everyone. A lot of that clickbait's not in Google. A lot of
Right.
that clickbait doesn't come from Google. So you,
Comes from Facebook.
if it's not on it, yes, but it also comes from services like Taboola, which are things that they pay. It's sort of like an
Yep.
ad. They pay for distribution on different sites, and then the companies who want their content distributed through these networks uh, can use clickbaity
Mm-hmm.
images because you know whatever.
Because
So
they don't care.
they're I mean, there's a couple of them. I'm not just picking on the one.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
couple of services like this where, like some of the content can be quite legit, but also companies can come out with listicles and things like that they put there, and then like you click it and you're like, hey, wait a second, this isn't quite what I expected,
Right.
or um, my favorite one is the one where it's like it has this picture of bananas boiling or something boiling bananas, and it's like cardiologists recommend this one thing to flush your bowels or something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a second, why are cardiologists recommending I flush my bowels in the first place? And
True.
is it definitely boiling bananas to do that? Like, you know, and then you click through and it's like something completely else. So like yeah, like Google's not going to solve that problem because a lot of that stuff
Right.
doesn't come from Google listings.
Right.
Google's already too smart for that. But
Sure.
I think some of the things that end up in Google News and Discover and things like that,
Yeah.
could be somewhat deceptive. Or you put out people might be searching for something like they want information that doesn't exist and you're trying to answer their query, which I get it. Like why someone who's publishing on the web would want to do that. Like let's say,
Right.
for example, someone was searching for when does when will I think of something people really really are looking forward to. Okay, when will the when will the next Intel chip come out?
Sure.
When will Raptor Lake come out or something like that? And they're searching for it, or like the next, or some Marvel movie does. When will the Fantastic Four movie come out?
Right.
Like we don't know, right? Uh, there's some hints though, like oh well, we think it's going to come out in 2024. Or somebody's dropped a tea leaf or whatever, right? So you search for that, and then you get a headline that's really quite definitive, and it's like Fantastic Four is coming out Fantastic Four release date revealed, and then you click it, and it's like, well, we think it might be on this day because of this and what they've done before, but we really don't know. Like, that's clickbait. Now, are they totally not answering your question? No, they're sort of answering it sometimes, but not what you'd expect. And so I think Google's right to crack down on this, um, but nobody really knows how effective their technology is at doing it. and whether people that are doing legit editorial are going to be dinged for it. Um, and we may never know because those who are writing stories may have their stuff get delisted or deranked or whatever, and they may
Right.
not know why. So it's hard to say. If we could read the mind of Google, we would be better off. But on the other hand, we would all be using whatever the method is to get to number one, and that's why
Right.
they don't want to tell you exactly what they're doing.
As I always say, when you create rules, you create a game, and when you create a game, you're going to have people that play it better. So that's if we knew what all the rules were for the game, you'd have a lot of people playing it at a high level, and those people don't tend to be the ones that you want playing at a high level. So, you know, knowing has its ups and downs. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.